We've got a fantastic episode today. A few months ago, you submitted some lovely questions to us. We've done 2 episodes so far. We've answered as many of these questions as we can. In this 3rd episode, we're going to answer even more of them. So if you love the podcast, please do like us. Please do share it with your friends and, well, maybe not your family. In fact, definitely don't share it with your family unless, you're into that sort of thing, maybe. Share it, like it. It really helps us grow and gives us the incentive to do more of these. As always, feel free to drop us a comment of anything you'd like to hear about in future episodes or your thoughts on the current episode. Now, on with the show. This podcast contains frank discussions about sex, kink, and BDSM. If you're a consenting adult who wants to learn more about these topics, then stay tuned.
You're listening to Chief from kinkyevents.co.uk, helping you create the dom-sub dynamic you've always fantasized about.
Well, hello. Another episode of Conversations with a Dom. We've not been around much. I don't think we've put one of these out for a good few weeks, but we were mid going through a list of user-submitted questions, and there were so many of them. So the first 2 episodes are the last 2 episodes. So if you want to go and listen to those are questions like 1 to 30 or 1 to 40. So we're now powering through the rest of the questions today. Shall we jump in with the first question?
Let's do it.
This is from Nay. As a solo submissive female, how should I navigate play parties and dungeon spaces? How do I approach people and ask to play? What advice do you have here? I recently attended my first public event, and although I was somewhat comfortable there, I didn't know how to approach people to ask if they wanted to play. I mean, I can answer it as a man. If you look as a man, men will be very flattered because no one ever approaches us. So now, if you go after the most attractive man there, then yes, they will probably have been asked by every other woman there. So, set your expectations. But in general, most men will not get approached in those spaces. So, if you go and ask someone, they're very pleased, I would imagine. Doesn't mean they'll say yes, but
yeah, I think as a solo female going to play parties, keen to explore, you've got it good. You're in a good situation.
Yeah,
no strings attached.
Prize. You are the prize at those kind of events.
Yeah, or like there's not going to be any sort of hindrance. We don't need to do any of the silly like invisible sort of gesturing, like, okay, this is my partner that has permission. Like, even though sometimes those things are unsaid or they are said in a way, there's still like a, ooh, can I play with this person if they're attached with anyone?
Well, that is something, yeah. So if it's a couple, then that might be a bit different because you'd have to check with both people because not everyone is monogamous who's at a play party. Not everyone wants to play. I guess it's the same as in a bar, when you're approaching someone, if you want to ask them out on a date or you want to speak to them, it's the same thing. Go up, make small talk, and then you can be a bit more forward because it's a play party. I guess. I don't know. I'm terrible at it, so I'm probably not the best person to ask. And as a man, it's a lot. I think it's hard. I
think the one struggle, actually, you might find couples. I know that there are some couples who only want to play with other couples because they don't want there to be any sort of issue of attachments. So that might be something. But I think if you're just clear and you state what you want and you're there with kind of no expectations but to enjoy yourself and to meet other people, you'll be fine.
It's not clear as well if you want to play with a man or a woman, but because it might be slightly different depending on that. But just go for it is the answer. I mean, you sent this question in. I did send out this survey in March and it's now June, so hopefully you've already been to events and figured it out for yourself. So sorry for the slowness, but there we go. Yeah, we're not the most outgoing people, so I don't have much advice.
No,
you can sort of do the whole play near them, but it depends on what sort of party. So I've been to parties where if you're playing near people, it's kind of then okay for it to merge, and then some other ones, people have come up to us while we're playing, but they haven't really wanted to play. They haven't been clear with what they want, and that's quite frustrating. Like, we'd be having sex and then someone would just come over and sit on the bed,
spectating,
but fully clothed,
and
might sort of touch a bit, but it's not clear what they want.
You know what's great? Bracelets, those color-coded bracelets that some parties have, and it makes things really clear, like green, amber, red.
bracelets?
I think we went once.
Maybe. Yeah, they can be helpful, I guess. Yeah.
At least for who is even approachable versus not.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
at the minimum having a please do not approach me or go ahead and approach me and let's see. I think that's very handy.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Hi, I'm a new listener reader and wanted to firstly thank you for creating such an insightful, helpful content related to BDSM. Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind. It's empowered me to discuss adopting a more formal DS arrangement into my 20-year relationship. Your content has made me feel normal and also realised that we organically had lots of elements in our relationship already, but it's injecting extra sparks. Whoop. We are still youngish, being in our 30s, and it's been refreshing to explore the dynamic further. Here are a range of questions and topics that I'd personally like to hear more about in your podcast.
Okay.
So we might not be able to
take
answer
notes.
all of them, but
Yeah.
Tell us what you've been up to over the last few months and any changes, updates in your personal or relationship. My most favourite thing about the podcast is you just seem like nice, normal people. Well, we fooled you. We are we are not normal. No, that's very kind. Thank you. The thing is, we are very normal. We don't do much. we don't actually do a lot.
Is that normal or is that abnormal,
I think it might be quite normal in the community, but not normal in a broader sense. I mean, it's day to day. It's just the usual stuff, isn't it?
You want an update on us? Yeah, I had the flu. I went to visit my family, and I'm suffering from hay fever currently. That's the thing that's the most exciting bit about my life right now.
Well,
is that I'm
there is one
suffering
update.
from
You're
hay
getting
fever.
very good at riding on top, having maybe last year not been
Not
able
even
to do it at all.
not even being able
Now,
to
cowgirl,
move.
you can do.
Yeah, but
And
so
it was very good last night.
Was it?
The motion, you've got it.
Was it
I mean, it's
good?
definitely getting smoother. Yeah.
So last night during cowgirl or whatever, it was good. It was lovely. I was enjoying it, but it still feels it feels too much. I feel bad being on top. I feel
Because
bad.
you're taking rather than giving.
And all of a sudden I feel like really dominant, in control of the movement. It makes are you enjoying it? I can't tell if you're enjoying that in the position. Like, I know that the movement is pleasing me, but is it pleasing you? How does it feel to you? Because I know it doesn't feel the same. And then if I don't think it's the most attractive position to be in either, like aesthetically pleasing, like here, look at my double chin and like the,
Oh, indeed,
and the spot on my chin, I guess, or like,
I wasn't looking at that.
no, I know. I'm saying, like, I feel very insecure being on top. I think that I am improving in cowgirl, but I feel really loosey-goosey in my body. Like, I don't know what to do. And then, like, yeah, I'm crushing you. So I'm crushing your pecs last night. And you're like, oh, ease off.
Well, it was only because it was quite a while and you were pushing quite hard.
Exactly.
So,
So then I'm like, am I doing this for too long? Because the thing is, like, in that position, I feel like I could just keep on going for a very long time, and because I'm enjoying the friction and I'm enjoying the
But
sensation.
you couldn't.
But does that
when
feel
you first
good?
started, you couldn't keep going. That was the thing.
I know, and when I say for a very long time, like in that, but like it doesn't lead to anywhere, right? But I could have kept on doing that motion and just enjoying like a very slow build up. And then I feel like I'm like, great. I need to like speed up so that it feels good to you as well, because I can't just take. It's so much taking.
I know, but imagine that's what I feel as a dom.
But don't you like that?
No, but like I have the same thoughts. I'm like, in normal positions, I'm like, oh, I'm not giving anything back. I'm taking. So it's the same. That's how I feel.
It stresses me out.
Yeah, but you have to. That's what you have to. You have to almost block it out and be like, oh, well, I'm just going to enjoy this for my sake and almost not worry too much about the other person.
And then
hard,
every time
right?
I did think about like, and then it slows me down. And you know how like Emily Nagoski talks about like sexual accelerators and decelerators, and how women have a lot of sexual decelerators. And like every
AKA
time
breaks.
Yes, breaks, things that slow you down or things that pull you out of the moment. And every time I worry about that thing, then all of a sudden, like, I'm like, great, now I'm a step back. Like, it's going to take even longer
for me. When I'm like, I don't know, we're doing anal, I'm like, part of my brain is always going to be, is she okay? Do I need to check in? Blah, blah, blah.
But I'm like constantly, I do try to encourage you, and we talk about it a lot.
I was trying to encourage you.
I know, but I guess the thing is,
I'm just saying it's the same thing.
I know, and I can appreciate the struggle that it is being on top.
Yeah.
And the workout that it is.
Oh, that's a lot, yeah.
So I actually, but it makes me feel out of my element. But it's really tricky trying to balance, like, if I get too in my head about it where I'm trying to please myself, all of a sudden I may be feeling good, but then if I feel too good, then I'm worried that you're not feeling good. And so then it actually slows me down, and all of a sudden I need to take that much longer to actually, like, is there a destination in mind? You know?
Yeah, but let's say it finished with you on top. That's all we did. I didn't come. You'd feel bad, right?
Yeah.
But that's fine. I'm like, well, maybe I don't want to come that time,
I guess it's hard to know when I didn't, like, what's the objective, like.
What do you want the objective to
Well, I don't know. We didn't discuss things.
You just do what feels right in the moment. Did you want to come on top? Then you come on top.
Yeah. It felt nice just being with you and you being in me. And, it feels intimate and it feels special. And I like, I obviously very much enjoy having sex with you, but, like, it feels like a lovely moment. But, like, like, at what point do you get bored and you're like, okay, you can stop being on top now.
But again, you're worrying about me. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because I do the same thing. It's just part of it, we get in our heads about this kind of thing. It's really hard to be totally in the moment, especially as a dom, because you have to check in. And I think that's where you'd be a bad dom if you weren't. If you were just always out for your own pleasure, I think that's bad as well. So it's finding that happy medium.
It's really tricky.
It's almost why you need to say. That's why I try and say to you, like, you can use me. It's like when you say it back to me, part of my brain's still like, she doesn't mean that. She doesn't really mean that.
Yeah, I think
how it feels.
I like the verbal confirmation, but then it feels tricky in the moment to ask for the verbal confirmation as well. Like, is this still feeling good? It was good. I enjoyed it last night, but, like, it feels it's hard to feel directionless when I'm on top, and like, it feels like I'm calling the shots, and then that makes me feel bad. Yeah. It was lovely. It was great. I
know what you mean, because that's what I have to do normally. I have to do the whole thing.
It's tricky. So can I give you more verbal confirmation when I'm under you, and will that make you feel better about what you're doing?
Yeah. That's what we tell our listeners to do, right?
Can I ask the same for you then? Actually, what you did really well last night was when you were speaking up and saying things a couple of times, or when you said, like, who are going to come on my cock or whatever, or, like, I want to feel.
Yeah, I'm always hesitant about saying that, just because
I could have used more of that.
Yeah, because on the one hand, I'm like, I don't want to pressure you, because when you say that, you might get in your head being like, oh, now I feel pressure to come, and so I'm always a bit hesitant about saying stuff like that. But
I could have maybe even used a little bit more of it last night.
Yeah.
Okay. I like to know that I'm doing a good job.
Yeah. We can have a star chart, and as you're riding, I'll be like,
That's the thing I want to know. Like, is the movement good this time?
Yeah.
Oh, and then actually, this person want to know exactly what we got up to in the bedroom last night, I guess. Then when things switched over, and you were on top, and then my legs were over my head, essentially, and you were like, what's it called? Like the pile driver or whatever.
No, it's where I was holding your ankles together.
Yeah, but, like, they were really but you were doing, I know you were doing it deliberately, but there was one motion where, even though I had come already on top of you, then you started playing with my clip, but you were rubbing in a way that was like rubbing both my perineum and, like, basically my G-spot all in that same movement. Oh my goodness, that was crazy. That was good. It was a good movement. Yeah. It was very good. I liked it.
It's a good view, that one, but it's hard as well, because it stretches my thighs.
It stretches me.
Yeah, it stretches you. We need, like, the rope to be holding your legs up, because then you could relax.
I was helping out.
You were holding them.
Yeah, getting some of the weight off of you.
Yeah.
And
but
actually that helps.
It's hard to sort of kneel and thrust at the same time.
Yeah.
In a bit, but
Yeah. Anyway.
Fun. So that's what we've been getting up to. One of the things.
You were getting up last night.
Yeah. Moineau is my fave.
Thanks.
And I would love to hear about her origin story and how she has embraced her kinky true self and desires over time. Personally, I find she's super relatable due to similar age and anxiety challenges.
Have I not? I think I've done my origin story. I did on another podcast, actually. What was it called?
You've talked about it a few
Smut
times.
Drop. I think that's what was the name. I was interviewed.
Oh yeah, Smut Drop podcast. Go and Google that.
We were interviewed. I think my name was spelled incorrectly, but so be it. You'll find it. Anyway, but
we're both very hay fevery if you hear something. That's so we apologise.
So
It's
nasally.
in London. There's a lot of pollen.
What's my origin story? I grew up in a very religiously conservative micro community.
How did you go from thinking sex is bad to going, actually, I'm going to try it all and I'm fine with the kinky thoughts?
Massive crisis of faith that
Yeah.
really messed me up for a couple of years and made me feel like a terrible person in the eyes of God. And then I started, what's strange is that my faith deconstruction and then reconstruction.
Not face reconstruction.
No, faith. This isn't hay fever speaking, but thoughts about spirituality or whatever. But that process of unpicking everything that I had been taught and kind of finding my own way with how I like to think about philosophy and spirituality and the like. For a while there, I was completely away from that. And then I started to explore other traditions, how they were seeing and how Christianity historically as a whole was seeing the role of the woman and the divine woman and the goddess figure. And I've always been interested in that from a sociological, anthropological perspective historically, like Neolithic Earth Mother, Venus figurines, that sort of thing. And as I started to explore that side of things more, then I was able to pull that into what's happening in my physical body when I'm masturbating or whatever. When I'm feeling sexy and sensual, I was able to basically tie in that my earthly body isn't a place of sin.
So is it almost like you've used more ancient traditions and religions to give you permission to feel like that?
I had to unpick the Christianity, the conservative Mormonism that I grew up in. I had to unpick it to its core fundamental things and be like, okay, this is all this structure and all this dogma and all this doctrine that's been put on top, which all the organized bits of it were starting to feel incredibly inauthentic and not quite right. Even though the core idea, supposedly, of the religion and of most religions out there, the core, and what I determined to be the core, is that compassion and love is the ultimate binding force of the entire universe at its very core. Mm-hmm. And once you just expand that out, that idea of God and the divine is love in as energy, then I was able to be okay, well, how is that sort of energy expressed in nature and in interactions with people, and part of loving yourself is actually loving the body that you're in. And so there were so many bits going on, and obviously this wasn't all happening in one grand moment of insight, but slowly over time, as I read up on myth and folklore and different traditions and historic Christianity and all sorts of things, I realized that, for one, that just normal sexual expression is a natural part of being alive for any being on Earth and beyond, I suppose. And that doesn't mean that if I'm not doing it correctly or for one organized religion, that is bad. That, that perhaps an organized religion has a set of rules around that for a specific reason, historically or contemporary or otherwise. But if I don't consider myself to be a part of that subset, then I don't need to play by those rules, you know, but I can still be considered like worthy. I can still like, anyway. So I've got lots of issues about self-worth still, but generally I had to like unpick and dismantle everything and go through the trenches and through the abyss and kind of come out the other side and slowly learn to accept myself over time. But I used kink as a way to subvert that and start to explore like the darker sides of sexuality in terms of, and how I mean like good versus evil sort of, you know, kink is transgressive. BDSM is not considered for a large proportion of the population to be something that is acceptable, even though at its basis, when you break it down, what we're doing is communicating with each other, trying to respect each other's boundaries, and trying to give each other pleasure and to enjoy it ourselves and to be very much in the moment, right? Those are all beautiful, excellent things. And so how come BDSM isn't wholesome?
Yeah.
You know, it can be wholesome. And
It's
so
just
I see it actually as this very beautiful, subversive, like I've turned some very negative feelings and ideas about sexuality, and I've used transgressive, you know, modes of sexuality to then empower myself and be like, okay, this is something that is both good for myself and also helps strengthen my relationship and makes me feel good and closer to what it is to be a human. So hope that helps.
Number 3, she asked.
Oh dear.
This is more, she wanted a whole topic on
I
mental
see.
health,
Oh,
anxiety,
yeah.
depression, and BDSM, personal experiences, literature reviews, case studies. I don't think we'll go into that because there's,
Yeah.
you know, but good ideas for future
At some
episodes.
point, I have thought about writing a book on the subject, and I have many books on the subject that are kind of like research books. At some point, I would love to write a big book on anxiety, mental health, spirituality, and sensual and sexual expression tied into the feminine. So
Yeah, perfect.
be on the lookout for that when that comes
All
out.
right. 2032.
Yeah.
Your top 10 things to do for, in brackets, modest kinky couples in London. Burlesque show could be in there. If modest,
Modest? Oh, modest as in like
not too
demure.
extreme. Not too extreme. I mean, it sounds like, tricky. I mean, go to a play party.
Yeah.
Go to a munch. Go to a burlesque show.
Go
to a sex
to-
shop.
Yeah.
There's 4 there. Go shopping together.
Go to a
try
slightly
out some
fancy dinner somewhere a little bit classy and just kind of dress up and maybe wear something under your clothes, some sexy lingerie,
not?
and just feel sexy.
Yeah. There's 5. There we go.
So
I haven't got
we've
10,
given 5.
That's it.
We've given you
Go on the
5.
London Eye. I can't. I don't know what other things. No.
Yeah. We're not the people.
Yeah, difficult one. There was another one as well about creating DS dynamic in and out of the bedroom discreetly when living with other people, e.g. teenagers. Yeah, I mean, everything... We've discussed it.
Coded
It's difficult.
jewelry,
But
coded,
yes, jewelry,
coded
rituals.
terms, you know, going to wash the car, that sort of thing.
Go to wash the car. All right, next one. So that was... Who asked that? That was... I didn't mention the name. Oh, there's no name, but yeah, thank you for that.
We've just been doing numbers.
Next up from Rose. As a new Dom, as in female Dom, I want to know how I can start speaking like a Dom to command that sovereign, nurturer type of authority without getting emotionally tethered to my partner. One struggle I have is that because I'm by nature very loving, I fall into the trap of getting emotionally attached to him, and I notice that the power dynamic shifts where he tries to show his dominance by disengaging with me, and I want to be able to be lovable while still being able to remain calm in my authority, not allow my emotions to run the show and show him who's boss. I'm not quite clear what when he says he tries to show his dominance by disengaging with me. I mean, does that mean he doesn't want to be a sub all the time and he wants to switch? I'm not entirely...
Let's just ignore that part of the passage. I think we can answer it without quite understanding that bit. I think that maybe some mirror work, practicing some phrases to yourself in the mirror, while it sounds silly, can actually be helpful in this sort of instance. It's hard to come up with things on the fly, but if you know some terms that you think, I think you have to read some erotica, watch some porn, and just start noticing what sounds sexy to you. And can you repeat that? Can you say it and make it sound sexy? Just be on the lookout for any sort of inspiration. Go to your, listen to your favorite, film. And do you know what I mean?
Well, you were saying like you were watching Wheel of Time. And so I was thinking, imagine yourself as a character from a film who's a woman who has that sort of energy that you want, and kind of imagine it's sort of like you're playing a role a little bit. And what would they say? That might help.
Rehearse it.
Yeah, rehearse it. Yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit. It's a difficult one. Is it bad to get emotionally attached to someone? I think you can still be a doorman and be emotionally attached to someone. But I think what you're getting at is then it's kind of like it's almost easier on a one night stand to be more aggressive is not the right word, but more detached, because you're less worried about them getting emotionally hurt. So you're more likely to, have different kind of sex, I guess. Whereas when you know someone a long time and you care about them more, so you don't want to hurt them, then you might hide more bits of yourself, which weirdly it should be the opposite. But that's definitely something that can happen. So maybe that's part of it.
You can try, adopting a persona and maybe giving yourself a name. And, before you start a scene, if you address yourself or have them address you by that name, I think that can help. It'll pull you up. Like you are putting on a role. Even when we are having a scene, even if it's the most casual thing, there's still an element that we know that we are adopting for a time a more dominant or submissive mindset within that moment, and it is helpful. And then we go back to doing normal things afterwards.
Yeah.
So you can do that for that.
Yeah, perfect. All right, another one from another Rose who might have just submitted 2 questions in a row, but yeah, I'm assuming it's the same person. It might not be. All right, yay. So excited for another episode already. I did a rerun of the podcast last year. Loved every one of them. Thank you very much. If you need some inspiration, I also really like the episodes where you discuss DS Reddit questions. Yeah, I like that as well, although I was worried people would think it was an easy route out.
Cop out.
But I really like it because you get such a diverse set of questions. Anyway, my first question, how are you doing? Yeah, fine, thank you for asking. And the main question, what DS podcast do you listen to yourselves, and what are your sources of DS information? I don't listen to any.
No.
I
used to listen to a couple, but they were more like research, field work for for the website and everything, just to see what was being out there. And then I determined, I'm like, you know what? I don't need to hear what other people have to say.
Yeah, I listen to like a minute of some if I see one pop up. Yeah. But there's something about the American ones. It's just
thanks.
I don't know if it's too cheerful or too. I don't know. There's something about some of them that I find not authentic, or maybe it's. I don't know.
Some feel campy, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not the word I would use, but I know what you mean. And some you can tell are just someone's basically written a blog article or scripted it and is just reading the script, and I don't like those ones as well. I'm not saying they're bad information. It's just it doesn't sort of flow with me.
Some sound a little bit dramatic as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there are podcasts out there for everyone. The podcast that I genuinely listen to, it's if I like that narrator's style of speaking.
Yeah.
It's less about the subject and it's more, it's like, how is it presented to me? That's going to be the podcast that I listen to, and that tends to not be sexy podcasts.
Yeah, this is old now, but I used to listen to Esther Perel's, I forget the name of it, but she's a sexual I'm going to say health, but it's not, it's like a psychotherapist or therapist, and in her podcast it was real couples, and she would record the sessions with them. and it was all about intimacy. And I thought, I've got her book. I think it's great. This was maybe 5 to 8 years ago now. So I like that kind of stuff. I like less listening to DS stuff, more relationship type stuff. So that's kind of one that I think would be interesting to
There's
listen
one
to.
called like Sex and Psychology, I think, Justin, whatever his name was. That one's good. I like anything that's more science based. And then more locally, the people who put on the London alternative market, the Kink Shrink, when we went, we'd go in and listen to the Kink Shrink. She always had really interesting things to say. And it was just a Q&A style from, questions from the audience that she'd answer from that professional sort of perspective that I found really informative and really helpful.
Yeah, even if the stuff we kind of know, there's always little extra bits or different ways of phrasing things that I find really useful. Yeah. How to break up from a relationship or a situationship that has a DS dynamic. I guess like a normal relationship.
I mean, if there's a contract, I guess you'll have to tear up the contract.
Burn it. Yeah, I can't really help with that one. It's just like a normal, just like adults communicate.
You do it out, actually, you would do it outside of the dynamic. That's the one thing. You're not going to be going to your master groveling and saying like, please forgive me. Do it, drop the dynamic and do it face to face, adult to adult, and just say, explain why it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. First up, thank you for helping me realize that I don't have to be mean to be a dominant. Even though your resources are focused on dominant men, it was the most helpful for me personally, and I'm glad you're still active. I don't know the gender of this person, but as a newcomer who is experimenting, sometimes I cannot hide my frustration or awkwardness with a new knot or position. There are fewer resources that cover men's bodies in this way, so I might have some difficulty despite my research. He might come out of it, and that's the most awful thing. The fear of breaking that connectedness is starting to hold me back from trying these new things that we both want to try. Do you have any advice? I don't know if this is a man or a woman, but obviously they're trying new things on their male partner. I mean, yeah, look, you don't need to be perfect. We always say this. You don't need to be perfect. There's no proper way to do things as long as it's safe and consensual. And even then, safe is... people have different definitions, and it doesn't always have to be safe because, you might have a cutting kink, which is not necessarily safe, but, you can make it as safe as is applicable for you.
Risk aware,
yeah. But, yeah, look, it's like anything. People are scared of doing new things because they're worried about failing. Not just in BDSM, in anything. Getting up on stage, why do people have stage fright? Because, well, they don't want to make a fool of themselves on the stage. So it's just something that you have to get over, and you can preface it by saying, oh, look, I've learned this new knot. Would you be okay if we tested it out? So by prefacing it, then your partner knows that, hey, okay, this is new and things may go clunky, but that's okay. And I'd hope your partner would be understanding anyway. If you're in an intimate relationship with someone, you'd hope that they shared your views and are excited about you trying new things out on them. And yes, at first, if you get something wrong, it might break their submissive state and they have to give you feedback, and that's not it's what you want, but it takes them out of the moment. But, after you've done it 10 times, then it's for their benefit as well. So that's my take on it. People fear getting things wrong and messing up, but you will. So you will fear things and you will get things wrong, but that's okay.
Yeah. Accepting it is the first step towards progress. I also think for not specifically, you can really slow down when you're not tying. You don't have to do it speedy or quick. Especially if you're trying to kind of cover up some of the clunkiness, if you just go for the slow, sensual approach, that can hide a world of sins. Obviously, you still want to be doing the knots correctly, but if you make sure that you're dragging the rope slowly across their skin, that sort of thing, it will still feel sensual to the person receiving the knot tying. And you might find that it gives you enough time that you can figure it out without making a mistake. And then if you do need to retie something, as you're untying it to fix whatever error, go just as slowly and make it so that it's a sensory experience to the person receiving the tying.
This one's from Chris, bit of a longer one. I've entered into a relationship with someone that has experience in the BDSM community where I have none. She identified as a brat and she also wears, I'm not sure what that means, but so we have a daddy sub dynamic. She also wants me to be more dominant outside and inside of the bedroom. I've done lots of research, and first, I think you provide the best information to. Of course we do. I mean, no, there's loads of great information out there, so I'm just glad that you like some of what we do. And do a great job in summarizing all the different aspects of BDSM community. I do not really have a dominant personality, and so it has been tough for me in this regard. But I'm interjecting here. This isn't part of the question, but I'm hoping that you want to do this and you're not just doing it because your sub wants you to. Anyway, back to the question. The best way that I learn is looking at examples. Specifically, I want to know how to be more dominant outside the bedroom. I just started to pick out her clothes and have some done punishments, spanking and slapping. I corrected her when she doesn't call me daddy, but of course we have busy lives. So sometimes it's hard to keep up the dynamic. We do not want a master-slave relationship, but I would like some guidance on how to show more dominance. Sounds like you made a great start, to be honest. And we've said it as well. You know, it's hard to be always in the role. I just don't think it's possible. I really don't think it's possible. I think anyone who tells you they are permanently in the role, maybe there's 1 in 10,000 who does it. I feel like I'm saying that every podcast because we do say the same things again and again. But when you're in a normal life with a normal job, and relationships are not always at the forefront of your mind, and therefore DS is not always at the forefront of your mind. So there's going to be times when you're not in the mood or in the role, and that's okay. What we struggle with, and I certainly struggle with, is how to do that switch from normal to then be like, right, it's DS time, and I don't necessarily know a solution for that. We've spoken about some various ideas for it, but it's normally like when one person is feeling turned on and then basically tells the other person, and then it's like, oh, okay, right, let's get into it. So it sounds like you've made a great start. I think it's thinking of things that you want to do. How do you want to be dominant?
With that start, I'd say what I often hear as from other subs, and I've experienced it as well, is if your dominant is doing so many things in a day, picking out your clothes, and maybe you guys have a rule that you have to do good morning, good evening texts, and you have a couple of things on your list of every day this is what's going to happen, and the sub remembers that list, and then real life gets in the way, and you as a dominant forget to do something. And the sub internally is going to say, oh no, like, what did I do? Or somehow it doesn't feel great if something that has been scheduled as like a routine act is dropped all of a sudden and you don't know why, or importantly, if there was a punishment or a threat of punishment given and then no follow through on the punishment, then you're like, well, shit, like, what are we playing at in the first place? So I just say, with all the things that you're doing, less is more at the beginning when you're first starting to find your feet. Introduce 1 or 2 elements and make sure that it's something that you enjoy, and then have a nice little feedback session with your sub and be like, okay, is this something that we want to continue? Is this realistic for us to continue to do all the time? Or is this actually starting to take a bit too much time out of our daily tasks of what we need to do to survive? And is there something that we can maybe drop if it's not serving its function? Just be realistic about how much you can handle. You don't need to be the master dom who can, juggle 5 whips at a time. So take it easy for you and your sub, and make sure that you're having some feedback sessions together to make sure that you're both enjoying what is being implemented.
Yeah, agreed. All right, next up. As a submissive myself, I've found that there are real doms/masters and fake ones. I find it hard to find the real ones. So my question is, how do you find a real one? What are the green flags to look out for? I mean, I'm going to do a plug. I have the Art of Submission course, which is for it answers exactly these sorts of questions in a video course, which you can find on the website kinkyevents.co.uk, and it's for beginners and intermediate subs who want to go a little bit deeper, and this is one of the questions that's there. For me, it's probably better if you answer this, but for me, it's, are they listening to my feedback, I think is the main one, or do they just want to make it all about them and they're telling you what they want? They're saying, are you into this? Are you into this? Well, actually, no, they're saying, right, I like this. Will you do it with me? I like this. Will you do it with me? And they don't really ask what you're into. That's probably the biggest one. I did have another point, but I can't remember it, so I'll let you.
Yeah, green flags, people who are checking in, people who are communicating their wants and also asking you for yours, people who are willing to negotiate and to compromise. If you come across some dom who says like, here's my hard, terms of agreement, essentially, then I'd look at that a bit skeptically. Most everything should be negotiated, and there should be a reasoning behind why things are a certain way. If you come across a dom who just lays out the law from the get-go, I'd really be quite skeptical about that. I went on a date once with a man who had this whole big list of things of how the date was going to go and how he wanted me to get dressed and exactly what to wear, every single bit of my outfit and how I should approach him and everything. And there are some things that, even though I'm like, I can do this, it felt like a challenge, but some of the things were not really practical or like for my like body or it didn't make sense with how I live my life generally. And so it felt like quite the effort to try to meet these demands.
Especially for the first time.
Yeah, and like talk about me feeling awkward and anxious. It didn't help to ease the anxiety. Spoiler alert, that night ended in, a big anxiety attack, as most of my early dating nights ended. That was the night that, it was my first time having sex, and it was it was fine, but looking back, I'm like, for fuck's sake, well done him. He had my first time, but the entire time I was slightly uncomfortable with the situation, even though he wasn't a terrible person.
Yeah.
He saw dominance a certain way that now I realize is a very much more on the domineering. I wouldn't call him a fake dom, but I'd call him an irresponsible dom, certainly.
Yeah, and we're not saying necessarily it's bad to have a list of things you want, but it should definitely make you think, is that something as a sub I want? Is that the kind of dominance that I want? Because there's lots of different types of dominance, and that may not be the right one for you. The other thing I was going to add, I just remembered, is make sure it's not a pattern, because so many, I'm only going to use men and women because that's just what I know, but if you have an anxious avoidant attachment style, or an anxious attachment style, then you might keep going for avoidant people, and they often come across as doms, but they also, look at your past relationships. Have you always gone for the same type of guy or girl and it's always ended up badly? Because again, you might think, oh, this person's a dominant, but actually they're just a bad person, or they have issues themselves. And so look at your own patterns and who you generally are attracted to, because sometimes we can't help who we're attracted to, but they may not be the right person. So it's not just about DS, it's also about, in general, who are your partners that you're going for, because you might just keep going for the idiot guy who says he's a dom, and you find that attractive, but actually you're attracted to a lot of the darker things in his personality that are a result of trauma. That would be my, speaking from someone who's struggled with relationships and has sort of been in, not a bad person, I'd say, but certainly struggled with relationships and things like that. I generally always attract the same type of person, and so I have to be careful and know that I'm not really describing it very well, but attachment styles are a thing and worth just checking in with yourself on that one as well.
Yeah, relationships are hard anyway, and throw on a DS element on top, it's even harder. On the attachment, I totally agree with the attachment style thing. However, also it's kind of become a little bit of a vogue to use attachment style as as an excuse to enable certain behavior, and just realize that even though someone might be, anxiously attached or avoidantly attached, turbulently or otherwise, even if that is their attachment style, that's not like an excuse to act a certain way. It may be the reasoning behind some things, but it's not like that doesn't then all of a sudden give them permission to...
Yeah, it's not an excuse. Like, it's still bad behavior. You can't just go, oh well, it's my style.
Like, I'm never going to learn from that.
Yeah.
It's the flaw that everyone works to mollify and to ideally grow into a secure attachment over time with hard work.
Yeah.
Great. A little side.
Next one up, 2-part question. I'm a regular at munches and play parties around the southeast UK. As fun and exciting as it is, how do you both deal with a drop after events, whether I play or just attend event? For the social side, I always get home and crash. I mean, we don't go to enough events to know. Generally, when I go to events, I find it difficult to make with small talk with people, and so I find it exhausting. Like, I get home, and then even at work, if I go to a meeting, just for an hour meeting outside of, with real people and have to talk to them for an hour, it's very draining afterwards. But that's nothing to do with DS. That's just how it is. So I don't think it's not really dom drop or sub drop. It's just being an introvert and socializing. So a lot of it comes from that. You have the anxiety side of things, which is different.
It's an extra layer of complexity.
Yeah. So I don't know if I've ever got like dom or sub drop from an event. More just fatigued from having to chat to people. Although I have been to some events where I've been playing with people and it's been great, and afterwards I'm just like, oh shit, when can I do that again? It's not really a drop. It's more just, that was great, and I still think about it. Yeah.
If you do know that you tend to have a bit of a drop afterwards, just make sure that you've scheduled some downtime. Don't plan, don't do it the night before you have some big performance review at work, or, plan accordingly. Think about how many spoons you have. If you know the concept of spoons and like chronic illness and anxiety and issues like that, how many spoons do you have to get through the evening? And make sure that you leave one spoon for the journey back home. You can always crash more safely and comfortably when you're back in your room safe, so make sure you have just enough energy, at least at minimum, to get home safe.
Yeah. Second part of the question, again, there's no name, so I don't know who this is, but this question may not apply to you too. However, I class myself as solo polyamorous and have multiple play partners and do scenes with a lot of other people who are either monogamous or non-monogamous. How do you find the fine line with doing scenes with other people who are in a relationship with other people and the poly side of kink when playing at events?
Just have to discuss it all. Just realize the more people that you play with and the more polyamorous they are, means that the more checks that you have to do to make sure that everything's okay in the little polycule structure that you're forming. When we've played with others before that have partners, or someone who's currently on a date with someone else, and then we come back here and we've all of a sudden you're not just looking at the dynamic between you and your partner, you're also looking at and the other person and how that'll affect their dynamic and how their other dynamic will be feeling about the whole thing as a whole, and then each individual person within the dynamic and orgy that's going on of limbs. So just talk it all out.
Yeah. It's like with one other person, there's two things. There's like from you to them and them to you. With 3 people, it's 6 lines of communication. So the more people you add, and then if those people have partners, then it's all of them as well. So yeah, communication. And it's really not easy. It's not easy. Yeah.
If anything, I found that when we have brought other people in, the first meeting is generally a discussion about, okay, this sounds very exciting, and it's kind of checking that everyone would be comfortable at some future date to do something. Like, it's never on the first go,
Yeah.
the first go, it's actually figuring out all that troubleshooting. And then afterwards you're like, okay, maybe we can all play together again sometime. It's trying to arrange the play date.
Yeah, generally, if we've done it, sometimes we've met with couples, but there hasn't been a vibe, or we're not quite sure if it's going anywhere, and so we've never actually discussed anything. We just sort of, the intention has never been made clear on either side of what's going to happen, and so we've just ended up sort of friends with them, and we've seen them at parties and stuff. But then if I've been on a date with someone and then we want to introduce them, it wouldn't be right away. It would be like, I'd get you to meet them to see, and we wouldn't start playing immediately. And generally that's how it would work. But yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky.
It's all tricky.
It is very tricky. That's why it doesn't happen. That's why we don't do it. It's too much effort. It's too much effort.
It is a lot of effort. You have to if you're going to commit and make it a part of your lifestyle, realize that it's a lifestyle shift.
Yeah.
It's not just as simple as going out on the weekend and having a grand old time. Like, if you really want to, especially if you're polyamorous and non-monogamous, it's an entire lifestyle shift.
I do, again, I've said it before, I think as a solo woman, who I think, judging by the questions, this is a woman, I'm not sure, but I think so. I think it is easier than as a solo man. As a solo man, it's very, very difficult. Unless, again, you're super, super attractive. So, but if you're a solo woman, you're in high demand. So it would be easier for you, but I think then you have the more difficult job, because generally you'd probably be meeting couples and
who are desperate,
who not necessarily desperate, but have maybe not thought it through and talked it out properly. So you might get their backlash if something goes wrong. So different troubles. All right, next one up. As a sub, how do I successfully articulate my desire to be psychologically and mentally dominated? When asked, all I can say is that I want a man to get inside my head, but they don't seem to understand what's required. Well, yes, I wouldn't understand what's required. I've had people say that online. It's like, I want to be, what's the word they use? I forget there's a word for it. But let's just say mentally dominated. Like, what does that mean? There's so many things that can mean. Like, it could mean that I'm trying to think of the most extreme example, but I could abuse you and put you down and make you feel really shit.
You want to be ignored, gaslit.
Yeah, that's mentally dominating you. But do you actually want that, or so you need to sit down and figure out what you actually mean. And communicate it to them. How are they meant to guess?
Yeah, if you can't articulate it very well, then they're not going to have any idea.
You probably don't know yourself.
And in that instance, the Art of Submission course is great. I've previously made a little journaling guide that does help you figure out what your personal desires may be as a submissive. It's worth checking through and seeing, like, what sensations and feelings are you wanting from the dominance, and then work from that. Okay, if that's the sensation that you want, what sort of things generally give you that sensation? Okay, can you think of some activities that some other person can do that will give you that sensation? You do actually need to put forward the work. You cannot expect to find your dark charming, right off the bat, who's going to be able to read your mind and twirl you around his little finger and have you melt in some beautiful orgasmic fantasy of your wildest dreams. That can occur, but not without work on your end. If it's without work, then that is an actual fantasy and not real life.
Yeah, it's too broad. You need to narrow it down for the person. I've been finding that one of the things my partner and I struggle with most in the early stage of learning our dynamic is dirty talk. We both don't always know what to say, and it makes us nervous. Do you have any tips or advice to get over these nerves or to explore using different vocabulary?
You have a little smudge on your nose. And it's dirty.
Is that your dirty talk?
Yeah, that's dirty talk is hard. You just have to start saying things, and if they sound silly, guess what? They are silly, but there's some bit of you that finds it kind of amusing or charming or not, and it'll pull you out of the moment, and then you learn, and you're like, okay, never again will I say that specific phrase.
You'll find phrases that you both like,
and
but you can only find them by trying out different things.
You'll just end up using the same phrase over and over and over again. And guess what? It'll work every single time. And the more it works, the more you'll be conditioned that phrase works. And
yes, but it's finding
it's
those
incredible.
phrases.
It's like sometimes it really is as simple as, oh God, that feels so good. There you go.
Yeah. You know, there are those apps for kinks where it's like a sex menu, but it's more anonymous. So you both fill in them anonymously. And then if there's a match, it tells each other, so you don't have to feel embarrassed. I wonder if there's nothing for dirty talk. I'm thinking like if you had 100, 200 dirty talk phrases and then you both go through and say, yes, that would turn me on, and no, it wouldn't. And then it would just show you the list where you both match. And then you'd be like, yep, let's use those ones. Go. That'd be good. But just practice in front of the mirror saying them. Because you might have some words you don't feel comfortable saying. Yeah.
The easiest dirty talk is just describing how it makes you feel. Whatever the action is, like, how is it feeling? What is that sensation? Like, is it wet? Is it hard? Like, does it feel good? Like, say what say what's going on.
Say what you see.
Yeah, as dirty talk, be like, oh,
that like, can be one.
Be like,
good approach.
Like, your ass is jiggling.
Or, depends. They might get offended at that.
I know, but like,
your fat ass is jiggling. Stop it.
What's that smell?
I'm smelling a pungent odor. It's definitely dirty.
Yeah.
Practice. I'd write some phrases. I'd write 5 phrases that you like and check with your partner, what do you think of these, and then use one.
I still feel silly every time I say the word cock. I know I say it. I know it sounds like I say it just fine on this podcast. It's not true. Every time I say it inside, like I can feel like a phantom shrinking of my shoulders. Like I'm cringing inwards every single time.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding at all. I know we've done the vibrator showdown on here, and I've talked about cleaning my own poo out of my bum for anal. Like, it doesn't matter. I still saying can I suck your cock still makes me internally cringe, even though it's my favorite activity. It doesn't get better.
For certain things it doesn't. Yeah, I need a code word.
It doesn't help. If it's cringy, it'll always be it actually sometimes those funnier phrases like this, the innuendos, are actually much easier to say, but it still does the effect. So start with innuendos and work from there and get more explicit as you go. Like, ooh, I'll bake you some cookies. There you go. Yum. Doesn't that sound fun?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It works. Practice. I'm in a long-term, 20 plus years monogamous and vanilla relationship that I don't want to leave. And although therapy and a lot of personal exploration through literature, I've uncovered that I'm actually quite kinky and eager to explore DS and many aspects of kink, especially submission, shibari, and leather. My partner bought Stephanie Gorlick's with sprinkles on top based on your episode.
Hey.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad it helped. And we've read through the first half together, but we've stopped, and they have stated that they're uncomfortable with all of it. I cannot see my life without them, and I don't want to push for their consent against their no thanks. I've taken leatherwork, shibari classes, and made myself harnesses, which was so nice, but I don't feel seen or desired by my partner, and I've given myself some submissive activities to perform for them, but don't feel dominated. I brought up going to casual vanilla munches. We're in a major city, which is a plus because they have a ton of these sorts of opportunities, and they've stated that they want to be there with me, / don't want me to go without them, but hasn't felt comfortable going yet. What other ideas would you suggest I go about exploring this on my own? Is it even possible?
It does sound like you're at that moment where you need to decide, how much do you value your relationship over your sexual exploration? Is it something, I mean, you've gone without for so long, and I'm like, it sounds like you've been doing everything that you can, you know, you guys, you're going to therapy. Are they keen to go to therapy? It sounds like they've put quite the boundary on they're comfortable with their vanilla existence, and you've awakened something that you realize that you'd like to be more kinky. Now, if you can satisfy it yourself in any way that you can, that maintains the relationship integrity and is respectful to your partner, then I think you're along the right lines. If you want anything more, then it's a matter of having a difficult conversation and asking yourself truly, is this something that you need to have fulfilled? Otherwise, is this something that is worth ending the relationship over? Because if their boundary is that they're uncomfortable, unfortunately, like, it doesn't matter if you can convince them to go to therapy, or like, it sounds like you've reached a wall. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've done everything right, but you need to be careful not to push your partner beyond what they're comfortable with.
And they've said they're uncomfortable with it, and that's totally fine. You know, not everyone is into it, so if that's their position, then you can't make them into it. I mean, your question is definitely like, what can you do as a solo person to explore it? But it sounds like you're doing lots already. But also, you know, it could just be because it's new to you, so it's, you know, you've got that sub energy and you're excited, and actually after sub frenzy after because it's new and exciting to you, and actually you'll find in a few years that'll sort of dampen off, and then you're okay just doing little bits of it. But if it's going to be totally monogamous and you can't change that, then it depends. Like, you could go to kink events and not do anything, but just like watch. Like, does that count? I mean, some people may see that as cheating. I don't think it is, but you know. So, but yeah, really, you can't go any further than that. Apart from maybe talking to people in the community.
Yeah. Are you satisfied just, you know, reading some erotica? In this instance, I mean, if you're not already, I assume that you might probably be reading fan fiction, which is lovely. I will say I don't read fan fiction every single day. There are sometimes that I go months.
She said she's read a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes I'll go months without reading anything, and then guess what? I want that little spark. I want that little excitement and that energy. And I'll say that energy will last me 3 or 4 months, where all of a sudden I'm in some kick and I'm reading a whole bunch of smutty fan fiction. And then guess what? Eventually one day I like reach my limit and I don't want to read it that day or the next. And so there are dips and wanes in how kinky we feel. And right now you might be at your peak of a kinky feeling. And so that's frustrating that you don't have a partner who wants to explore that with you. But it might be something that you just need to give it some time, and then it'll ease off. And in the meantime, because think about the metaphor that just came to my mind is a roll of loo paper, of toilet paper. At the beginning, it seems like you've got a whole lot of the roll, but the more you roll it out, it spins faster and you get less and less as you go along. Does that make sense? Like
I know factually that's what happens. I'm not quite sure how it
No, this relates because
how the analogy relates.
You said you're in a 20-year relationship.
Oh yeah,
that's a really long relationship.
Yeah.
And when did you just discover this kink? Is it within the past year or two? In terms of percentage of the time that you've had the relationship, like, if it's brand new like that, that's really like, how much of the relationship is that worth? And maybe your partner, maybe like they just need more time to be comfortable with where things stand as they are at this level that you're doing, you know? And then you'll see that over time, maybe, I'm talking like in 6 months or a year, maybe then you broach it again and ask how things are feeling, and can you negotiate how your relationship structure is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this seems new. By 20 years of a loving, committed relationship, right? That's what I said.
Yeah.
So I'd bank on the relationship lasting.
Yeah. That it's very important, the relationship. The kink is an added extra, and yeah, you might not get everything that you want, and you just have to. That's life.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I think this is a bit of an aside. This is not an attack on you
No.
all, to the person. I think I've certainly realized over the years that we've been doing this and throughout my own kinky journey that it's not a core essential part of my life at all. It is a fun supplement that can make me feel good
get a lot of,
and excited.
I
know.
criticism for that.
You know what? It's been years in the process. This idea, I've realized that it is not essential.
Yeah,
it's not. I value my own mental health and my physical health and my relationships more than I value satisfying my kinks or my subby persona. And even though I've learned a lot in BDSM that has enriched my life, it's not necessary for me to continue. And if I needed to drop it tomorrow, I'd drop it tomorrow and I'd be fine.
Yeah.
I'd find something else to substitute. At the end of the day, what is it that we're doing? We're giving, we're receiving dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin on all these lovely feel-good hormones from doing this that makes us feel like we're satisfied and fulfilled and gives us some sexual excitement. Guess what? I mean, going on a hike and like moving your body and getting physical, it's the similar sort of high that you get. So I know it sounds like it's very exciting, but I have realized that like if I needed to drop everything, I could just pick up some like hobby, like a sport or something, and I'd be fine. Surprise! Like this submissive does not see her submissiveness as the entirety of her existence.
You can't drop your personality type, but you can drop wanting a DS relationship, and it's not everything. Like I know we run a DS podcast, but it's not our lives, which is why it's always funny when people are like, how do you stay Dom 24/7? And
like, we don't.
It's like we don't. It's like that's not how it works. Certainly for us. And again, we've got nothing against people, and I know there will be some haters out there who just listen to us because they want to pick up on all the things that I say that are inaccurate, and there's probably loads of them, but. And say, oh, he's not a real dom. But what is a real dom? Like this is just our life and how we do it. We're not saying this is the right way. You can do it 24/7. That's great. But yeah, most people, I think, do it like we do. And for some people, it is an essential part of their life and they couldn't deal without it. That's fine.
Our way of expression is not going to be everyone's way of expression. I think everyone's got their own style.
Yeah, they have, and that's what we encourage. We want to demystify this. It's really a DS relationship is whatever you want it to be. There's no right or wrong beyond the safety and consent, which was talked about earlier. I think that's the thing, and it's always funny because I had someone comment and they were like, "Oh, that pleasure dom," because we did an episode on the pleasure dom, or I wrote an article on it, and they were like, "Oh, he's that's the wrong definition of pleasure dom, and he's bashing. He said that my master can't give me pleasure," and I'm like, no, I never said that. I was just like, if I had to put a label on something, a pleasure dom is someone who focuses on the other person's pleasure and getting them off. I'm not saying a master can't do that, but it's just people pick up on these little things I've said just to pick a fight. The main point of this is figure out what you're into. Communicate it to the other person. Hopefully they are, find out what they like, find a happy medium, and then experiment and do what you like, and whatever feels the best to you, continue to do that. That's it.
What's funny is that sometimes, yes, we do play, we are more in a scene where we are deliberately trying to be dominant or submissive, but most of the so much of what we do, even though we've given ourselves these roles that we have named as dominance and submission, like any other typical couple on the street who has visited a sex shop and has a little collection of sex toys, they might not ever classify themselves as a dominant or a submissive, nor have they ever gone online and researched and what type of BDSM subtype am I or whatever. But here they are with a full sex chest as well. What makes them different from us?
Spanking and
I know.
rough sex.
That's the thing. And it's like so normalized. Well, I mean, within the very small subset of the internet community that I participate in, like spanking and ideas like that has become much more normalized in my sphere, where like it seems like lots of people are doing it nowadays, and there's much less shock and horror going into that idea. But surprise, spanking is definitely part of BDSM historically. That's the sadism, masochism side of things. That's the discipline. That's the physical impact play, pain element that has historic roots in BDSM. So, but here, is every Sally down the street is getting spanked on a Friday night, and they might never call themselves a submissive in their entire lives.
Yeah.
So, it's what you make it.
It is what you make it. And on that note, if you have liked this, please like it on whatever platform you're on. I feel bad saying it because everyone says it on the podcast, blah, blah, blah. But it generally, we want people to find out about this. It's a very small podcast, so anything you can do to publicize it would be great. And you can also check out kinkyevents.co.uk. There's a mailing list on there, although I don't post stuff as often as I should, but I generally, if I do a new podcast, I'll send it out on there. And there's also a book for DOMs, and there's the course for subs. So they're all on the website.
If you think one of your friends would benefit from hearing this podcast, feel free to recommend it on to them. Drop us a little mention in cheeky Reddit. It all does encourage us. I do check to see if our podcast has been mentioned on Reddit fairly regularly. About every 2 weeks, I'm doing a check in the comments. And the thing is, every time there's a positive comment, it makes me feel good. And then I say, Chief, guess what? Like, you're helping people,
and
like
then we
people
record
are
another
finding...
episode.
And then we record another episode.
If no one mentions it, we don't record another episode.
It's been 1 month since I've seen that someone has commented about the podcast. So come on, you guys. No, I'm joking. But every mention out there does feel nice. It feels validating, and I like to see that we're all working to demystify this silly thing that we call DS.
Yeah, perfect. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks chatting.
Thanks
with
for
me,
listening.
Chief.
Thanks chatting with you, Moineau. Now get down and suck my cock.
With pleasure.
All right, lots of love and spanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You're listening to Chief from kinkyevents.co.uk, helping you create the dom-sub dynamic you've always fantasized about.